Hello everyone, and welcome back to our journey through the annals of ancient Egypt. In our last two episodes, we followed the incredible story of Ahmose I, the boy king who inherited a fractured kingdom and rose to become its liberator. We saw him drive out the Hyksos, reunite the two lands, and secure Egypt's borders against all threats. But the true measure of a ruler isn't just in the battles they win, but in the peace they build. Today, in our final part, we explore the lasting legacy of Ahmose I, the man who didn't just win a war, but laid the very foundation for Egypt's golden age, the glorious New Kingdom. So, the wars were over. The Hyksos were gone. Nubia was pacified. What now? For many rulers, this would be a time to rest on their laurels. But for Ahmose, the real work was just beginning. He understood that military victory was fragile. True strength came from a prosperous, stable, and unified nation. His focus shifted from the sword to the chisel, from the battlefield to the temple. And from conquering lands to rebuilding a civilization, this was the moment Ahmose transitioned. From a warrior king to a statesman, a visionary whose reforms would echo for centuries. One of his first and most crucial tasks was to reward the loyal and rebuild the power structures of Egypt. The old provincial nobles, the nomarchs, had grown to powerful during the Second Intermediate Period, often acting like petty kings in their own right. Ahmose, having seen how this disunity had weakened Egypt, systematically curtailed their power. He centralized authority under the pharaoh, ensuring that the entire nation answered to a single, unified government. He appointed trusted officials, many of whom were his own family members or military comrades who had proven their loyalty in the heat of battle. His own mother, the formidable Ahotep, was honored with unprecedented titles, recognizing her vital role in holding the kingdom together. This created a new, loyal administration that was dedicated not just to a region, but to the future of Egypt itself. With the political house in order, Ahmose turned his attention to the economy. A country doesn't run on glory alone, it runs on grain, trade, and resources. The Nile, the lifeblood of Egypt, was once again a secure artery of commerce. Boats laden with goods could travel from the southern quarries of Aswan all the way to the Mediterranean coast without fear of bandits or rival lords. Ahmose reopened and expanded the turquoise mines in the Sinai and the gold mines in Nubia. This influx of wealth wasn't just for the pharaoh's treasury, it funded the grand projects that would come to define the new kingdom. This economic revival was the engine that would power the Golden Age. And what did he do with this newfound wealth? He initiated a massive building program, the likes of which Egypt hadn't seen in centuries. This wasn't just about creating impressive monuments, it was a deeply spiritual and political act. The Hyksos, in their rule, had neglected many of the traditional Egyptian gods, promoting their own deities. Ahmose understood that to truly reunite Egypt, he had to restore its soul. He poured resources into the temples of the traditional gods, especially Amun-Ra of Thebes, who became the patron deity of the victorious dynasty. Grand temples were constructed and old ones were restored at key religious centers like Abydos and Karnak. These weren't just places of worship, they were symbols of a national rebirth. When people saw these magnificent structures rising from the ground, they saw the power and piety of their pharaoh and the return of the divine order and justice that had been lost. Art and culture flourished under this new stability. The chaos of the intermediate period had led to a decline in artistic quality. Now, with royal patronage and a renewed sense of national pride, craftsmen and artists began to create works with a new level of sophistication and elegance. The style that emerged during Ahmose's reign set the standard for the rest of the New Kingdom. It blended the classic traditions of the Middle Kingdom with a new vitality and confidence. From finely carved reliefs to exquisite jewelry, The art of Ahmose's time tells a story of a civilization rediscovering its own genius, perhaps one of Ahmose's most significant military innovations, which would become a cornerstone of the new kingdom's power, was the establishment of a professional standing army before him. Armies were often raised from local levies as needed. Ahmose, having fought a long and difficult war, knew that Egypt needed a permanent, well-trained, and well-equipped force to protect its borders and project its power. This new army was not just a defensive tool. It was the instrument of empire, the chariot divisions, the skilled archers, and the disciplined infantry that Ahmose had forged in his wars against the Hyksos became the backbone of a military machine that would soon carve out one of the ancient world's greatest empires. He laid the groundwork for the military pharaohs who would follow, like the great conqueror Ahmose III. When Ahmose I died after a reign of about 25 years, he was laid to rest not just as a king, but as a national hero. The Egypt he left behind was a world away from the one he had inherited. He had found a land divided, demoralized, and occupied. He left a nation that was unified, confident, wealthy, and powerful. His tomb, discovered at Abydos, and his mummy, now resting in the Cairo Museum, are the physical remains of a man who literally changed the course of history. He closed the door on a dark chapter of chaos and opened the first page of Egypt's most brilliant era. The pharaohs who followed him, Ahmose I, Thutmose I, Hatshepsut, Thutmose III, Akhenaten, Tutankhamun, and Ramesses the Great all built upon the foundation that Ahmose had so painstakingly laid. The empire they ruled, the wealth they commanded, and the magnificent monuments they left behind were all made possible by his initial struggle and his visionary reforms. He was the spark that ignited the flame of the new kingdom. So when we look at the golden treasures of Tutankhamun, or stand in awe before the towering columns of Karnak, or read the tales of Ramesses the Great's battles, we must remember the man who started it all. Ahmose I, the liberator, the unifier, the pharaoh who turned chaos into order, despair into hope, and a broken kingdom into the dawn of a golden age. His legacy is not just written in stone and gold, but in the very fabric of Egyptian history. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the life and legacy of Ahmose I. His story is a powerful reminder that even in the darkest of times, one individual's courage and vision can change the world. If you enjoyed this series, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next adventure into the past. Let me know in the comments which historical figure you'd like to explore next. Until then, stay curious.